Don't try this at home. But I would like to share this video with you because I think it really summarizes what we talked this morning, and it's gonna also help us get into the final part, which is playful learning. Okay, so let's take a look at this video. Try not to fall asleep, please.
Let me tell you a story. It's my first year as a new high school science teacher, and I'm so eager. I'm so excited. I'm pouring myself into my lesson plans. But I'm slowly coming to this horrifying realization that my students just might not be learning anything. This happens one day. I just assigned my class to read this textbook chapter about my favorite subject in all of biology, viruses and how they do. And so I'm so excited to discuss this with them, and I come in and I say, can somebody please explain the main ideas and why this is so cool? There's silence. Finally, my favorite student, she looks me straight in the eye and she says, the reading sucked. And then she clarifies. She says, you know what? I don't mean that it sucks. I mean that I didn't understand a word of it. It's boring. Who cares? And it sucks. These sympathetic smiles spread all throughout the room now. And I realized that all of my other students are in the same boat. That maybe they took notes or they memorized definitions from the textbook, but not one of them really understood the main ideas. Not one of them can tell me why this stuff is so cool, why it's so important. I'm totally clueless. I have no idea what to do next. So the only thing I can think of is say, listen, let me tell you a story. The main characters in the story are bacteria and viruses. These guys are blown up a couple million times. The real bacteria and viruses are so small, we can't see them without a microscope. And you guys might know bacteria and viruses because they both make us sick. But what a lot of people don't know is that viruses can also make bacteria sick. Now the story that I start telling my kids, it starts out like a horror story. Once upon a time, there's this happy little bacteria. Don't get too attached to it. Maybe he's floating around in your stomach or in some spoiled food somewhere. And all of a sudden, he starts to not feel so good. Maybe he ate something bad for lunch. And then things get really horrible as his skin rips apart and he sees a virus coming out from his insides. And then it gets horrible when he bursts open and an army of viruses floods out from his insides. If ouch isn't right, if you see this and you're a bacterium, this is like your worst nightmare. But if you're a virus and you see this, you cross those little legs of yours and you think, we rock. Because it took a lot of crafty work to infect this bacteria. Here's what had to happen. A virus grabbed onto a bacteria and it slipped its DNA into it. The next thing is that virus DNA made stuff that chopped up the bacteria DNA. And now that we've gotten rid of the bacteria DNA, the virus DNA takes control of the cell and it tells it to start making more viruses. Because you see, DNA is like a blueprint that tells living things what to make. So this is kind of like going into a car factory and replacing the blueprints with blueprints for killer robots. The workers still come the next day, they do their job, but they're following different instructions. So replacing the bacteria DNA with virus DNA turns the bacteria into a factory for making viruses. That is, until it's so filled with viruses that it bursts. But that's not the only way that viruses infect bacteria. Some are much more crafty. When a secret agent virus infects a bacteria, they do a little espionage. Here, this cloaked secret agent virus is slipping his DNA into the bacterial cell. But here's the kicker. It doesn't do anything harmful, not at first. Instead, it silently slips into the bacteria's own DNA. It just stays there, like a terrorist sleeper cell, waiting for instructions. And what's interesting about this is now whenever this bacteria has babies, the babies also have the virus DNA. So now we have a whole extended bacteria family filled with virus sleeper cells. They're just happily living together until a signal happens, and bam, all of the DNA pops out. It takes control of these cells, turns them into virus-making factories, and they all burst. A huge extended bacteria family, all dying with viruses spilling out of their guts. The viruses taking over the bacteria. So now you understand how viruses can attack cells. There are two ways. On the left is what we call the lytic way, where the viruses go right in, take over the cells. On the left is the lysogenic way that uses secret agent viruses. So this stuff is not that hard, right? And now all of you understand it. But if you've graduated from high school, I can almost guarantee you've seen this information before. But I bet it was presented in a way that it didn't exactly stick in your mind. So when my students were first learning this, why did they hate it so much? Well, there are a couple reasons. First of all, I can guarantee you that their textbooks didn't have secret agent viruses and they didn't have horror stories. You know, in the communication of science, there is this obsession with seriousness. It kills me. I'm not kidding. I used to work for an educational publisher, and as a writer, I was always told never to use stories or fun, engaging language, because then my work might not be viewed as serious and scientific. Right? I mean, because God forbid somebody have fun when they're learning science. So we have this field of science that's all about slime and color changes. Check this out. And then we have, of course, as any good scientist has to have, explosions. But if a textbook seems too much fun, it's somehow unscientific. Now, another problem was that the language in their textbook was truly incomprehensible. If we want to summarize that story that I told you earlier, we can start by saying something like these viruses make copies of themselves by slipping their DNA into a bacterium. The way this showed up in the textbook, it looked like this. Bacteriophage replication is initiated through the introduction of viral nucleic acid into a bacterium. That's great. Perfect for 13 months. But here's the thing. There are plenty of people in science education who would look at this and say there's no way that we could ever give that to students because it contains some language that isn't completely accurate. For example, I told you that viruses have DNA. Well, a very tiny fraction of them don't. They have something called RNA instead. So a professional science writer would circle that and say that has to go. We have to change it to something much more technical. And after a team of professional science editors went over this really simple explanation, they'd find fault with almost every word I've used. And they'd have to change anything that wasn't serious enough. And they'd have to change everything that wasn't 100% perfect. Then it would be accurate, but it would be completely impossible to understand. This is horrifying. You know, I keep talking about this idea of telling a story. And it's like science communication has taken on this idea of what I call the tyranny of precision. You can't just tell a story. It's like science has become that horrible storyteller that we all know, who gives us all the details nobody cares about. We are like, oh, I met my friend for lunch the other day, and she was wearing these ugly jeans. I mean, they weren't really jeans, they were more kind of like leggings, but like, I guess they're actually kind of more like jeggings, like, but and you're just like, oh my God, what is the point? Or even worse, science education is becoming like that guy who always says, actually. Right? You want to be like, oh dude, we had to get up in the middle of the night and drive 100 miles in total darkness. And that guy's like, actually, it was 87.3. And you're like, actually, shut up. I'm just trying to tell a story. Because good storytelling is all about emotional connection. We have to convince our audience that what we're talking about matters. But just as important is knowing which details we should leave out so that the main point still comes across. I'm reminded of what the architect Mies van der Rohe said, and I paraphrase, when he said that sometimes you have to lie in order to tell the truth. I think this sentiment is particularly relevant to science education. Now, finally, I'm often so disappointed when people think that I'm advocating a dumbing down of science. That's not true at all. I'm currently a PhD student at MIT, and I absolutely understand the importance of detailed, specific scientific communication between experts. But not when we're trying to teach 13-year-olds. If a young learner thinks that all viruses have DNA, that's not going to ruin their chances of success in science. But if a young learner can't understand anything in science and learns to hate it because it all sounds like this, that will ruin their chances of success. This needs to stop. And I wish that the change could come from the institutions at the top that are perpetuating these problems. And I beg them, I beseech them, to just stop. But I think that's unlikely. So we are so lucky that we have resources like the internet, where we can circumvent these institutions from the bottom up. There's a growing number of online resources that are dedicated to just explaining science in simple, understandable ways. I dream of a Wikipedia-like website that would explain any scientific concept you can think of in simple language any middle schooler can understand. And I myself spend most of my free time making these science videos that I put on YouTube. I explain chemical equilibrium using analogies to awkward middle school dances. And I talk about fuel cells with stories about boys and girls at a summer camp. The feedback that I get is sometimes misspelled, and it's often written in lol counts. But nonetheless, it's so appreciative, so thankful, that I know this is the right way we should be communicating science. There's still so much work left to be done. And if you're involved with science in any way, I urge you to join. Pick up a camera, start to write a blog, whatever. But leave out the seriousness, leave out the jargon. Make me laugh, make me care. Leave out those annoying details that nobody cares about, and just get to the point. How should you start? Why don't you say, listen, let me tell you a story. Thank you.
That was great, huh? Yeah, when I saw that presentation, it was like, oh my God, that guy's stealing my ideas. No, but really, think about it. I mean, that's what we've been talking this morning. I mean, who can say, things that he said that we discussed this morning here? Who can say some of them? Anyway, things that he mentioned there that we discussed this morning. Emotional connection, that's drawings, you saw the drawings. Telling a story, how important it is to tell a story. Analogies with real life. What else? Meaningful learning, connecting ideas, making it fun, right? So important. And he mentioned there, I mean, we need to read the textbooks. I'm not saying not to use a textbook. But before, we need to engage our students with the content in a different way. So when they go to the textbook, it's really meaningful. They have some background knowledge. And that way it's not so boring. Because that's what it is sometimes, really boring, right? And complicated. That's what this morning I was telling you about doing these summaries. It's not like you're going to just copy from the textbook and put it in Word, because if you do that, it's just something really hard to understand from one place to the other. So yeah, we have great examples here from that presentation. Anything else that you want to share? Oh, I haven't seen that one.
And I think it's on the Weather Channel. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They do all kinds of experiments, but they model them, they show you, but they're talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
They are using some of the jargon, but they do use it, and you can visualize it. They create quicksand,
Mm-hmm.
like they do different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really interesting that it's not your usual science calculation.
Yeah, it's a matter of making it meaningful, interesting. Sometimes I use this example, probably it's not the best example, but I don't know if you've seen that show Breaking Bad. It was very famous a couple of years ago. And in Breaking Bad, you see this character being a teacher and going into creating, doing crack. Is that what he created? Meth. And he was using all his knowledge as a chemistry teacher and all the knowledge that he got to create this perfect drug. And then this student that hated that class, he sees the result and how much money you can make, and he wanted to learn. Okay, I want to learn. Show me the formula. How do you do it? Probably it's not the best example to share with the students, but what I'm trying to show you is how something that becomes meaningful, then it is really interesting for me. So great. So those are some of the things that we discussed this morning related to visual learning and all the areas that we covered during the focus part of the presentation about meaningful learning. Next, there is one more thing that we need to cover, which is what? Playful learning, right? Playful learning. So playful learning, actually, if you do all the things that I told you up to here, if you do all those strategies and you create this environment where we're having fun and all that, that will happen by itself. You will have an environment where playful learning is taking place. And it is amazing, because I remember doing that, and one year I got this parent calling the mother of one of my students, Mr. Hernandez, ¿te está enseñando ahí? Okay. Yes, man, I'm teaching here. No, porque mi hija siempre me dice que está jugando. And no, man, we're not playing all the time, man. We're just doing certain things that probably she feels like playing, but we're actually learning. And actually, at the end of the school year, she got great scores on the state test, and the mother came and apologized. Mr. Hernandez, sorry, it's because I'm not used to this kind of thing. And that for me was like, you see, that's the problem right there. We're not used to this kind of thing. We're used to the kind of things that we know they don't really work. And sometimes we're afraid to try things that are different. And that's something that I really want to tell you. I mean, don't be afraid to try something different. It's like giving that leap of faith, like after you go and you see that it's working, you will feel like, man, this is amazing. I'm going to keep doing different things and trying new things. So sometimes trying to use technology or trying to use these different strategies is kind of scary. What if it doesn't work? What if I get in trouble? Well, you see that they work, and you're going to get great results. And after that, it's going to be just a fun ride. So playful learning. What's play? Well, play is anything that you do just for the fun, or doing it, just because you want to do it. And that's probably why this mother called me saying, Mr. An, you're teaching there or what? Because for us, she was asking her daughter every day, what did you do today? We were playing. No, we were using educational software. It looks like a game, but you're learning. But for her, it was playing. We were drawing, sketching. We were playing, right? Coloring, and if you do it right, like I told you, it's also a great learning tool. We're playing. So try to create an environment where playful learning is taking place. How you do that? Well, using games. And I remember when I started teaching here, I got to my room and I had these cabinets full of games that I never used for years. I never used that. And then one day I realized, man, these games are here. Let me try it. And I started using the games and it was amazing. And then I started creating my own games in Spanish, memory games in Spanish for vocabulary. And the results were great. Now, what if you don't have any games? Well, you can create things like, for example, a game that I created. I don't know how I got to that game, but you remember that summary that I told you that you should give to your students with the keywords for a particular lesson, for a particular unit? Well, I remember telling my students you had to bring that on Fridays, because on Fridays we're going to play games, okay? And I remember telling my students, you're going to sit in groups. This is one group. This is another group. You're going to pull your summary. I'm going to give you some index cards, and you're going to read the summary. I'm going to give you a few minutes, and you're going to write some questions from that summary that you're going to ask the other group, okay? Now, when they're finished, they have their questions ready, they will ask the question to this group. If this group gets the answer right, they get a point. If they don't answer right, they get a point, okay? And the good thing about this game is that they can answer with the summary in their hand. They can look at the summary to get the answer. So initially, you will get these really simple questions, you know, what are the 3 states of matter? And the group, come on, liquid, solid, and gas. But when they answer like that, this group will go, I told you what to do. See, I told you. And they start discussing, right? But initially, you get these really simple questions, but they start to realize that it's too easy. So we need to change it a little bit. We need to use some other words. And then they start reading this. Look, if we put it this way, we change this word here. You see, it says here, but we can use this word. That's different. So they're going to get confused a little bit. That is, I just want to win. But for us, it's higher order of thinking. For the students, it's just, I just want to win. And if winning means that I need to read this, I'll read that. But in that process, they're learning. And they're having fun. And gets to the point, you play that for a couple of Fridays, 3 Fridays. We know everything. Can we try a different one? Because we know everything on this one. Or they start bringing questions. Mr. Nan, I was watching this Discovery Channel last night, and I saw this, and you see, this question is kind of related to that. Can I ask a question of the game? Okay, of course. And I remember my students asking me every Friday, can we play the game? Is okay? Okay, let's play the game. Because I knew they were learning, right? Now, that is just one example with a summary. But there are many other games that you can play in the classroom that will help the students to develop vocabulary, to reinforce the concept that they're learning in science. And some of them you can create your own games with a lot of the material that I'm giving you in Science Peaks. Remember, you can print those in color, cut those, create simple games like a puzzle. You have all the pieces for the life cycle. You get to this table, you have 5 minutes, and 3 minutes, you had to put the life cycle together. In 3 minutes, you had to take the pieces out of the Ziploc bag. So I invite you to use games. Now, there are also a lot of websites with many games that the students can use for vocabulary and for science. Again, at the end of the day, if you give me your email, I'll send you some links to get to these websites. But let's say that you don't have games like that. Well, let's create other things that are kind of it's like a play or like a game, like storytelling. like asking the students to put together a story. Remember the video that I showed you with the iMovie, or I mean the app iMovie, or the Toontastic? Okay, that's a great way to put together a story. But if you don't have an iPad, oh, I don't have an iPad, I don't have any technology. Well, put together a simple old-fashioned play in the classroom where the student has to tell a story, but the story has to be related with weather and erosion deposition. Given the freedom to write a script, you will be amazed again. They will come with ideas. I remember, and regarding technology, I don't know if you have technology here in the school district, but I remember when I was in my school district, I wanted iPods. And I asked my principal, can I have iPods? And he said, oh, I don't have money, but let me ask. And he went and asked the technology department. One day, he shows into my classroom with 20 iPods. Oh my God, that's great. You know what, can I have an iPad? They gave me an iPad. Can I have a laptop computer? Oh my God, can I have this? And I started asking, and they gave me a lot of stuff. And they actually invited me to the technology department. And they told me, you know what, we have everything, and we'll give teachers anything they need. But they need to show that they're really willing to learn how to use it. So if you really are committed to learning this technology, and you show the administrators that you really want to use it, and you know the best practices on using that, or you're willing to learn that, they'll give it to you. They'll find a way. And I remember also not only getting that initially, before getting that from technology, I wrote some grants. And I got the money for a set of Lego Meister. You see the Lego Meister? With the robots that you can build and program your computer. I got that from a grant that I wrote. So I invite you to get involved into how to use that technology. And if you show that you're willing to learn and you know how to use it, they'll give it to you. Hopefully, that's the case here. Now, when I asked for these iPods, they gave me the 20 iPods. I remember telling my students, you know what, I'm going to give you the opportunity to do a video, but it has to be about earthquakes. You have to use these words like vibrations, plate tectonics, all these words. And I remember the students asking, Mr. Anthony, we finished the script. Take a look. Oh, that was great. So, Mr. Anthony, can we put a banner here? Yeah, I can do whatever you want. And the banner was like Univision 23, that's a channel there in Dallas. And one of the girls were sitting there on a desk, and the other one was recording her like this. And she goes, okay, we have news from our colleague in Garland. There's an earthquake right now. We're going live. Mr. Knight, can we go out? Can we go out here? And then they already have a microphone with a U and everything. I don't know how they did it. You know, a piece of cardstock or something. And then they went out, and they were standing in front of the school, close to the playground. And then the other one was recording. She goes, okay, right now we're here in Garland where we feeling some vibrations, and now the earth is moving because tectonic plates are colliding right now. And she's like that, and the other one's moving the camera like this. And they brought all the video, they added music, and in lower thirds, like it looks like actually a newscast. It was amazing. And in the process, like I told you, they were, Mr. Nani, what is it again? Tectonic plate, they collide, how do you pronounce that? Because they want to look professional. But they were learning. And I remember I did a video like that with superpowers. And every student had a superpower from science, like electricity and different superpowers. And then I recorded all my students, and then I added with a software that is free, you can add like special effects. So the students were doing like this, and then the lighting going out, and explosions. And they were like, oh, this is so cool, Mr. This is the kind of things that I found the students in Walmart. Mr. I remember that video. We still have that thing. It's amazing. They love that. And if you tie that with science, it's going to be amazing. Next, mnemonics and music. And, mnemonics are really helpful. YouTube, internet's full, TeacherTube is full of mnemonics, songs, and things that you can do to remember the phases of the moon, the order of the planets. This is the one I used to do. My very educated mother just served us nachos. And it's amazing. I remember my students taking the test and going, okay, yo lo escribía, ¿no? They were writing there. Okay, I got it. So I invite you to do that. Then music. Let me see if I have that one here. Look. I remember walking through this 5th grade classroom and they're eating dirt. And I, oh my God, this classroom is eating dirt. Let me go take a look. And they were doing weathering, erosion, deposition. We eat dirt. And I asked the teacher, why not dessert? She said, no, dirt, because dirt's related to, earth. And okay. But she was telling me also in the test, the students were taking the test and we were singing that song really quietly. Oh, okay. Because what she wanted to show the students that usually they happen in that order. First weather, then erosion, then deposition. So I invite you to use music. Where to get music? Again, YouTube, TeacherTube is full of those. Now, if you're not the kind of, I know the kind of teacher that used to, ask my students to sing, and I'm not that kind of teacher. But I remember talking to another teacher, she loved, doing this singing along things, and I remember asking her, can I bring my students on Thursday and you do the whole thing with them? Oh yeah, Mr. That's fine. And we'll go and do something else. But then my students will come to the classroom and they will start singing those things to me, trying to teach me those songs. And it was great. It was a great way to learn. But everybody has a different style, but we need to try to use everything that we can to help our students. So playful learning, and that's why I leave this open here, is an activity you do for what? For fun, for whatever you want. So think about what activities you do in your classroom that you can tag as playful learning. And try to get more of those things. Or try to do more of those things. Because those are the kind of things that the students love. They really enjoy that. And another thing, games are great because the students are being challenged. And the students love to be challenged. Okay? And they want to win. And I do whatever it takes to win. Even if it's had to learn this. So that's the other thing that is important to do with your students. Now, so before I move to the other part, I want to tell you about this strategy of drawing and how important it is, because visual learning, again, is really important. And for the student, it's like a playful activity. So here in your handout, you have this page, and I'm going to give you a few minutes. And I don't know if you completed that quote from John Medina. No? Come on, guys. Oh my God. These students. There you go. Got it? Oh, picture. She's taking pictures. And I'm gonna write. Who's writing now? We have smartphones. Now, so there on that same page, you have a blank square there that says try it. What is it that I want you to try? Think of something that you're going to teach next week. And I want you to, what? Oh, okay. Well, okay. Probably something that you had to teach a couple of weeks ago. And how are you going to introduce that concept, that idea, with pictures? How are you going to explain that? And please draw it right now. I'm going to give you a few minutes. You can work with someone else if you want to get some ideas, some creativity, rolling there. But think of a subject, not here, that's for something else. Here. See, these students, they never follow directions. Okay, here. Here, where it says try it. And I want you to think of something that you're going to teach, or that you had to teach a couple of weeks ago, and how you will do that visually. And remember, labeling is very important if you want to develop vocabulary, so you need to include that there. So go ahead. Think about something and start drawing. Imagine that you're teaching this to your students with your document camera and you're creating this picture to introduce a particular concept, any concept. Oh, you can use your markers, great. Or you can use your color pencils. Imagine that you're teaching this while you're drawing, so the students are following you on their notebooks. Oh, that's great. I understand that one. That's beautiful. That's art. That's a Leonardo da Vinci kind of thing. All right. While you're doing that, I'm going to start getting ready for the experiment. You're going to need to get some water here. We don't need much. Enough for to fill that cup with water. Well, as one per group. Or, I don't know if we have enough. Yeah, we do. Oh, per table. Kill each other, please. We have time for everybody. Anyone? Sharing? Can I use this one here as an example? Look at this beautiful smiley face to tell you about melting, evaporation, how you go from solid to liquid to gas, and then you have condensation, freezing, and sublimation. And at the end, you end up with this great smiling face there. That's what I was telling you. This is art, right? This is a great example of art. Anyone else? You know, I saw one for this one here. Can I borrow this one here? I used to do this one a lot for, what is it? Revolution and rotation. And it really helps students see this. When they draw it, and when you're explaining what you're drawing. Okay, so this is great too. Anyone else? Mixtures or solutions, and you created like a sketch of what is it that they had for breakfast? Okay. Great, yeah, look, she has a bowl here and all the things that went into that bowl for breakfast, probably cereal. No? Oh my God, chorizo, chorizo. Yeah, that's chicharrón y chorizo. So that's good. All that goes into, and what is the example for solution? Hot chocolate, very good. That's good, great. And again, drawing, that is so powerful. But you need to model this for your students, okay? And so you're the first one that had to go over that fear and start drawing, okay? And remember, keep it simple. Keep it simple. The simpler the better. I'm gonna need to put some water here because if it's too dry, it won't work. So probably Just go around like this. There you go. Yeah, let's see. Let me put some more to this side. Okay. So, let's see this way. Let's leave it here. Thank you. So if you haven't tried this strategy of drawing, I invite you to do it, please, because it's really, really powerful. And I wanted to do this activity because sometimes I get from teachers this idea that they're not good at drawing, or they don't know where to start. I mean, the simpler the better, but you need to start doing this. Now, the other thing that is important here is parental involvement and homework. Why is it that I'm adding this to playful learning? Well, let me start with the homework. Homework, every school district, every school has a different vision on homework. And I remember in my school, they got to a point that they said, we're not going to give homework. And I told them, that's going to be a problem because in my case, it's a cultural thing. If I don't give homework, parents are going to wait for me when I get out of school and they're going to kill me. It's like, how come this kid is going to be doing nothing after they come from school? They need to do homework. That's part of our culture, right? Now, what kind of homework? Well, that's the key there. Because if you send home a boring homework, they're not going to do it. And if they do it, it's because parents are putting pressure. You have to do your homework, and they will do it in a different state, right? And I don't think learning is going to take place there. So I invite you to look for homework that is fun, that is like playing, coloring. Again, drawing. You can ask the students to create a new drawing based on what we learned, a different example, or create models. The students love playing with clay and creating models. So those are the kind of homework that you should send home. Or even going online and playing some online games, right? That's the kind of homework we'll do. So the key here is to frame that on learning, and a learning that is playful, okay? So that's the first thing there. I really think that homework is important, okay? But if we do it like that, okay, because if not, put yourself in the student's position. After a whole day at school running and jumping, and then you get home tired and you're going to sit to read a couple of chapters. Oh my God, I want to do that. And I remember sometimes reading, not saying that reading is not important, but if you're going to send for homework, read chapter 8 in the science textbook. Oh my God. I remember when I was doing my lesson plan, following the online curriculum. Okay, what is I going to do Monday? Read the textbook again? Oh my God. The teacher. Imagine the students. She's like, yes, I've been there. So you have to try something else too for homework. And the other thing is parental involvement. You have to help our parents to help their students. And after working many years as a bilingual teacher and working with many bilingual Hispanic parents, I see a lot of them wanting to help, but not knowing how. And a lot of them, they never got any formal kind of education, and so they don't really know where to start. So invest some time to help your parents, to help you. I remember having this meeting at the beginning of school year when I was asking all the parents to come. And I will do this at night so everybody will have time to come. And I was inviting mom and dad because usually, it's like just mom. And I want you both here. And I want to talk to you not only about the rules in my classroom and all that typical thing that we go over at the beginning of school year, but I will go over some ideas on how they can help me with math and science at home. I remember talking to dad, and dad, you fixing that, la troca, como le dicen, the truck, you're fixing that on weekends? If you sit there with your boy and you tell him how is it that motor is working, you're helping me a lot with science. Because at some point here in science, I will need to talk how this chemical energy transfers into mechanical energy and then into electrical energy. And if you already showed your boy how this motor works, you're helping me a lot there. Or mom, if you go to the supermarket and you're buying tomatoes, let's do some math here. A couple of pounds, how much is it? Okay, let's do your math. And to remind the parents that they need to be on top of that. And how? Well, probably just practicing the multiplication tables. I remember when I was a kid, my mother, everywhere we go, everywhere, driving and, in the subway, 5 times 4, 6 times 5. I'm like, oh, Mom. And I was, answering, but I had to do it. But today, I'm so thankful that she was like that, because that helped me so much. So you had to give these ideas to our parents, because sometimes they don't know how. What is it that I need to do? I remember doing some newsletters every 6 weeks with the things I was going to be teaching in math and science. And everything was written in Spanish, including those summaries, a copy of that summary in Spanish. So they can sit with the students, okay, these are the words that you're learning. Say, okay, vamos, siéntate, pues, vamos a ver. Yeah, but they have something to use, and they know exactly what the students are going to be learning. So we need to give them those tools. So I invite you to think about doing that at the beginning of the year and giving that material to your parents. And probably you're already doing that, but it's really helpful. And finally, we get to exploration and experimentation. And this is really important, because if we go back to the definition of science, remember? The 3 words in science, one was experimentation. And I remember when I was teaching, and I remember when I was teaching in all the classroom, at some point I had to do some science with all the classrooms. And I was doing this experiment that is on the FOSS kit called the stream table. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Oh my God, I hated that experiment. This is like, yeah, me too. Yeah, because it was so much work. And I remember having this big stream table that made out of wood and was on a cart, because I had to go through all the classes, and my bucket with water and all that stuff. So I was setting up everything in the classroom. We're in the middle of the experiment. Oh my God, yeah, ya se acabó. Okay, let's go. Get the bucket, help me, let's go to the other room. Never finishing the experiment. And it was not really any learning taking place. And for me, it was so frustrating that I remember every time I had to do that crazy experiment, I wanted to call in sick, I'm not going today, sorry. But at some point, I realized that, it is really important to do experiments. Because I've seen that, and I relate, I've been going through around many school districts in Texas, and I see many teachers not doing experiments at all. And again, I can relate to that because I've been there. And I know sometimes it takes really a lot of preparation, a lot of work. You have to get there like at 5 o'clock in the morning to get everything ready, right? And then you have to stay late. When you don't have the material, you have to go buy it at Walmart, you have to pay for it, right? And then the solution for that was, okay, forget about experiments. I'll teach them everything. They don't need to do experiments. What for? I'm a great teacher. No, we need to do experiments in science. So the solution for that problem for me was, instead of not doing anything, going online and trying to find a solution. And for that particular problem, the string table, I found this. All you need is a paper plate, so you can take this out of your packet in each table. You have a paper plate. You have a cup. And you have a straw. They gave us 4 of each. That's great. We just needed 1. Good. That's good. So remember, when you're doing the experiment, you have to put the students on the mood that we're going to do experiments, guys. We're scientists. So if you have a science lab, Go there and probably you will find lab coats, safety goggles, even boots. Ask the students to wear all that. They love that. And for them, it's like a make-believe thing. I'm a scientist, man. Now, that is also important because in every START test, there is at least 1 or 2 questions for lab safety. And what better way to learn something by doing it, right? So you explain to the students why you're wearing a lab coat, why you're wearing safety goggles. I remember telling my students that even though I had a jacket, I would wear my lab coat on top of that one. And even if I had shoes, I would put my safety boots on top of my shoes. Why? Because when you're in a lab, if you're doing some kind of experiment and you're working with acids or something, if something falls into your lab coat, you can take this lab coat really quick and you still have another layer of protection. Same thing with your boots. If something falls and breaks and gets into your boot, you can take those off and you can still walk away with your own shoes. So you talk about that, and then lab safety is really meaningful for your students. So if you're going to get into this experiment, technically for this experiment you need safety goggles. And you'll see why. And so get all that before doing the experiment. Then ask your students to get different roles. So you know that. When you do an experiment, you have to give a different role to the students, so you won't make a mess like, I want to do this, I want to do that. So everybody knows what is it that they're going to be doing. So someone is the person that is going to create the mountain. Someone is going to represent water. Someone is going to represent wind. Someone is going to have an iPod with a camera taking pictures of each step of the experiment. Oh, but we don't have iPods. Okay, well, someone is going to get this. And here, you're going to draw each step of the experiment. So someone's in charge of making great good sketches of each step of that experiment, because after we finish, you're going to share that with the other students so they can copy those sketches. Okay? So, in order to do this experiment, this is what we're going to do. Experiment, right? And usually when scientists do experiments, they is in charge of being wind. And for that, we're going to use this. Now, when I was creating my first product, it's a bilingual product. I'm from Venezuela, the other guy is from Peru, Argentina. Pitillo, pajilla, sorbeto. No one said popote. And that's an important thing to remember as bilingual teachers. Because I've been working with a lot of Puerto Ricans and they go, no, it's sorbeto. Okay, sorbeto. So if what you want to teach your students, what word are you going to? So sorbeto. That's what we say in Puerto Rico. Okay, so if you do that, you're just going to get your students in trouble. Because if you use sorbeto or pitillo all year and then go to the test and they see popote, what's that? That's it. You got it wrong. So what kind of words to use? We did that when we were creating our product. And we went online, we looked for TA, we looked at all the tests, and we realized that the words that they're using are mostly Mexican, and that makes sense because the majority of the population here in Texas is from Mexico, right? So even popote sounds really funny to me. I had to say popote, okay? So we're gonna use our straw, or popote, the person who's in charge of being the wind, and we're gonna get close to our mountain, and we're going to start blowing in one particular place. You pick where, and you start blowing. Look at that. Do it. You have to do it harder than that, or nothing's going to happen. Now that you're doing that, you can see why it's a good idea to wear goggles, right? And you have some things flying, right? If you try really hard. How we call those things that are flying? Sediment, very good. And some of those sediments are landing someplace else, like in your partner's eyes or something. Okay, that's why you need goggles. Now, you keep blowing. Now, is it easy to change that mountain by just blowing? No. Some people say, I have a headache, I'm dizzy now. It's hard. And that's actually, in real life, it really takes longer for wind to erode a mountain or any other landform. And now it really depends on the material of that land. Have you seen the arch? Those are created because the center of that rock is softer than the surrounding. So the wind is blowing that part first, and you end up with that shape. Well, you talk about that during this, and the students will go, oh, okay, I get it now. Okay. Now, you're going to keep blowing. And if you really do it hard and you keep doing it in the same place, you're going to start changing that mountain, right? Good. Now, hopefully, the other person in your group already have 2 pictures, 2 sketches of the 2 steps that we did, right? You're like, oh my God, yay, I forgot. Or if you have an iPod, you're taking pictures, or if you have a camera, you're taking a video. Look how simple are those sketches, but how powerful they are, right? Okay. Now that we model wind, we're going to need to model water. And to do that, may I borrow some of your water, please? Thank you. Now we're going to use water, and you don't need much. Okay, thank you. Probably just that cup, not even all the way like this. Water? Yeah, let me do it for you. Sorry. There you go. Now, follow instructions, please, because if you don't do this carefully, you will destroy the mountain. This is how you do it. And why you need to be careful with this part of the experiment, because water is such a powerful force that if you don't use it carefully, it will destroy the whole thing. And we don't want that, because we want to model how the Grand Canyon was formed. Now, look. Putting the water on the same place on top of that mountain, and on a constant speed, you start putting the water like this. And look what happens. Don't put the whole thing. Just stop there. Do it. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, you can go now. Carefully. Faster, faster, faster. There you go. Stop. There you go. Now, if you've seen a video before this of how the Grand Canyon was formed, you'll see the students, look, Mr. Hernandez, a canyon, that's that cool, look at it. They go all crazy. And you see the sediments being moved, right? And they're being moved down. You can put more. And they're being moved all the way down. What kind of landform is being created at the bottom of the plate? A delta. Oh my God, these teachers are really good. Really, congratulations, because I've been in some school districts that had to help a lot. Good, a delta. And if the students are seeing these videos, they'll go, look, it's a delta, look, igualito, mira. They'll get really excited. Now, you know what is the best part of this experiment? That you're done. Why? Because now you have the gift of time to go over the experiment, to discuss with your students what is it that happened, to see our drawing of weather and erosion deposition, and look on that particular experiment where weathering is taking place, where erosion is taking place, and where deposition is taking place. And you can see really clear where they are, right? And you can relate to the video, the sketches you did before. And that's it. You're done. And now you can discuss, you can share your sketches. If you finish your sketches, you can share that. Or you can take those pictures and create a video, create a PowerPoint presentation explaining the whole process. This is where, when you do that, is when the actual learning is taking place. This experiment is what it's creating is that experience to glue that knowledge into their brains. Okay? So look for this kind of experiments. And the good thing about this one is that you can do this, You recycle your sand, you're done, it's not a mess, there's no water everywhere, and you can go and move with your class. Isn't that great? So this is the kind of experiments I invite you to do. Now, don't say there in your school, Mr. Hernandez said not to do FOSS-KIT. That's what he said. No, that's not what I'm saying. If you have the time, you have the tools, you have the resources, do those great experiments. But if you don't have that, then do this, because between doing that and not doing anything, this is the solution. Okay? And these are really powerful experiments. Now, there is one part of the Science Peaks components that I offer. It's not included. I mean, when your school district bought, they bought from the distributor, they didn't buy from me. If you buy from me, you get this book. This book is not my book. It's a book that I added to the whole system, because here, first, it's really visual, has a lot of pictures. Okay, so it's really visual, goes perfect with Science Peaks, the concept of the visuals. But also because the experiments that you have here, and the kind of experiments that you can do with materials that you have probably already at your classroom, or you could buy at Walmart, they're really inexpensive. And the good thing about this kind of experiment is that when you do this in the classroom, the students will go, oh, Mr. Hernandez, can I take everything I will do home? I want to show my mom and dad. They get really excited. Or if they don't take that home, they'll probably have those things at home, and they'll try it there. And a lot of the things that you get here are the kind of the tics that you need to cover in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So this is another component. I mean, you can buy it from me, you can buy it from Amazon. It's only $8. So, but it's a good idea to add. Now, the other thing that is important, like I told you this morning, is to show the students how science is everywhere, right? And I remember when I was doing weather and erosion deposition, and we were planning about doing this experiment, telling my colleagues in 5th grade, you know, we had to give the students real examples of weather, erosion, deposition. And she goes like, yeah, that will be great, but you know, PTA never gave us money, so we're gonna go to the Grand Canyon. I said, okay, we don't really need to go to the Grand Canyon. That would be great, but if you go to your playground, look, these are the portables outside where I used to work. This is where the water comes from that roof there. It's hitting the same place all the time. And it doesn't really show here, blurry there. You can see how the soil is being moved. And what we have are the rocks, they're being exposed. And actually, those are the kind of rocks, if you grab those rocks and put some pressure, they will crumble, because all the water hitting all the time. So that's a great example of weathering. Look at here. This is water coming from the roof of the school, coming out that pipe. And I used to tell my students, you know, that piece of cement, I mean, the soil was all the way to the top, but over the years, probably 15 years, that's how old that school was, all that has been moved. And now we have this rock exposed here. And look, this piece of cement here, that's kind of in the air because of the weathering process and the erosion. Okay? That's a better look of that same area. And when you take your students to the playground, and they see that, they go, oh my God, that's so cool, Mr. Hernandez, aquí, mira, igualito, como te digo. That makes it really meaningful. And I remember a couple, like 2 or 3 years, it happened that I did that, and at the end of the day, I had this duty outside, directing traffic, and I used to see my students taking their siblings or talking with friends, showing them examples of weathering. I mean, I was not able to hear, but they were showing and they were talking, and pretty sure they were saying the same kind of things that I said to them. When that happened, I mean, that's it. Learning took place right there, because for you to be able to teach someone else, you need to really understand it first. Look, this one here, the guy who was in charge of collecting all the leaves there in the playground, he was piling all those things there, those leaves, and I remember telling my students, you know what, this is how soil is formed. Getting a meter stick, you put it down there and you lift the whole thing, and it will lift like a carpet. And you see how at the bottom is all dark, black kind of thing, those are the same leaves that are being decomposed over the years. And the kids love that. Oh my God, Ms. Hernandez, really? Yes. So take your students there, go around. I remember doing a video one day with the iPads, and I let my students to go to anywhere in the playground to create their own videos. And then one teacher comes, Mr. Hernandez, there's your students there, they're making a mess, like always, you know? Look at that, they're throwing sand, look. And then I go, man, because I see these kids, you know, throwing sand like this. Oh my God, they went crazy. And we go, hey, what are you doing? Yeah. And when I'm getting close, we go, okay, so this is a perfect example of wind erosion. You can see there's sediments flying. Oh, that's great, guys, keep going. And the teacher was, oh my God, Mr. Hernandez, that's why you're getting in trouble all the time. But I wasn't really getting in trouble. I was just letting my students be creative. And that's why the principal was, do whatever you want, man. They're learning. So I invite you to do that. Look for examples of weather and erosion deposition. We did the experiment today. So I invite you to look for those experiments. They're really simple to do. Where to look for it? Well, that book is one place to start with. But also online, you will find plenty of recommended videos to do this. And look what we did. With this, we just used play sand, cup, paper plates, straw, and this is what we did. These are pictures that we use for a PowerPoint presentation that you can ask your students to create after doing the experiment. Okay? And that brings me to the idea of motivation. Before I move to that idea, any questions about the experiments? What do you think about it? You like it? It's doable? Good. Are you inspired now to do something like that? Good. Try simple things, but they're really powerful. Okay, now that brings me to the point of motivation. Because first, when I talk about motivation, I talk about two areas. First, the students, and then the teachers. First, the students. I mean, after working for 8 years with bilingual students, I realized that a lot of them, they have really low self-esteem. And that's a big problem. Because they get to the classroom like, oh my God, I'm not good at this. I hate reading, that's my worst enemy. Oh, science, forget about it. Oh, I hate that. So when they get to that, with that attitude to your classroom, it's really hard to teach. But how you break that is really important. And the way you do that is doing what I just showed you up to now. Make it meaningful. Show them that everything is connected with real life. Show them that learning is really helpful. That knowing things are going to be the difference between winning or not. I remember telling my students about Leonardo da Vinci. Remember I told you about Leonardo da Vinci? And I used to talk about the life, how life used to be when Leonardo da Vinci was around. And telling the students how cities were surrounded by walls. Why? Well, because back then, if you have a lot of money, food, and women, this city, if we're lacking food, money, and women, they will come and attack you to get all that. And the only way for you to defend was with these big walls or with technology. Because first was the wall, and then this guy will come, you know, with bows and arrows, but sometimes they don't go that all the way to the top. But then I remember telling my students, you know what, this guy, Marco Polo, he went to China, he brought something from there to Europe that they use for fireworks, just for fun. But someone came to the idea, what if we put it in a bowl like this? Boom! We blow the whole wall. But before they got to that, they tried with catapults, we tried with auto tools. And when you start sharing these stories with your students, they see how learning is useful. They see how knowing makes a difference between winning and losing, and they want to know more. I remember my students, without me saying anything, they were going to the library, coming back, look, Mr. Hernandez, look, with the catapult, you see that, the catapult? I'm gonna build one, Mr. I'm gonna build one, I'm gonna use it for war with my neighbor. They'll come up with these crazy ideas. But that was because they were inspired. And that's the other thing that is important. You will find a lot of books about motivating your students, a lot of workshops about motivating your students. Because there is a big difference between motivating someone and inspiring someone to do something. And what I shared with you today is what I want you to do. I want you to find ways to inspire your students to learn more, to know more, to be curious, like you said at the beginning of this workshop. How do you do that? By telling stories, by making meaningful, by creating an environment when it's okay to fail, because that's how I learn. Okay? And especially with our Hispanic students, we had to give them this environment when they feel safe and they know if I made a mistake or if I pronounce a word wrong, that's not the end of the world. That's how I'm learning. Okay? Now, the other part of the motivation, it has to do with teachers. Because, you know, I've been going around for the last few years in different school districts, and I do this presentation, and then at the end, oh man, that was great, you know what, but I really hate science. Okay, that's the problem right there. Because if you, if you say that, and you get into your classroom with that state of mind, that's what your students are going to get. Oh my God, this guy is not, he doesn't like this. I mean, that's what they get. They sense that from you. And they act accordingly. Right? So you need to break that. And again, I can relate to some of the things that I get from the teachers because I was in the classroom, and I know how hard it is sometimes, especially when you had to put together all the things for experiments, and you had so many other things that you had to do and other subjects to teach. But this is important. And this is a problem for us Hispanics. So what I'm trying to share with you today is a way to solve that problem. But it starts with us. We're changing our attitude towards science. And if you think about it again, science is everywhere, okay? Now, the idea of these strategies, the ones that I mentioned today, is to help you be really successful. But I wanted to try to keep it simple, to keep it real. Because I've been in so many presentations where there's a lot of theory, but there's no really way to put it into practice. What I was sharing with you today is a way to make it real for your students. And I wanted to say one more thing. When you're teaching, you're technically preparing your students for the future, right? To be part of the workforce. But the reality is that a lot of the things that we've been doing for the last 500 years and the way we've been teaching is not really preparing our students for the workforce. And even now, today, it's even more dramatic. I was sharing with Ms. Menchaca that Science Peaks, it took me 3 years to create. I work with my business partner in Barcelona, Spain. We worked for 3 years with he had two other graphic designers, created all those pictures. And I remember my work with that, for that was getting either really early in the morning to sit with Skype or really late at night with Skype to talk with the designers and create my sketches, scan the whole thing, put it in Dropbox, so we'll see it there, they will download it, I will give them some ideas, they will create some sketches back, put it in Dropbox. I will give them some feedback. We'll have these meetings in Skype every 2 or 3 days. And we work like that for 3 years until we finally finish the product. And then we started selling. And we started selling for a year until we got a big sale, luckily. And I told them, you know what, guys? I think I can go to Spain to visit you. And I told my wife, we're going to Spain for the summer. And we went there. And I went to the office, And I sit in with this guy, for which I've been working for the last 4 years. And it was the first time that I was actually meeting this person face to face, shaking their hands. And we were making money for the last year together. That's the future. That's the future of the workplace. So are we really preparing our students for that? And the other thing is that you might think that if it worked for you for the last 20 years, doing what you've been doing, it's going to work for the next 20 years, right? You're wrong. If you don't incorporate these technologies, if you don't change the way you're teaching, I'm not saying to change completely. There are many things that you're doing that they're great, they work, and you keep that. You should keep that. But you need to incorporate those new things, because if you don't do that, eventually you will be out of the game. Okay? So how you do that? Well, seeing that it's easy, that you need to start by little, with a little project here, a little project there, start using PowerPoint, probably one of those apps that I gave you. Start using those apps with your kids. If you have kids at home, use it with your children, and then you see how you're going to incorporate that next 6 weeks with a little project. But you have to start somewhere. If you don't do it, you will never do it. So if you want to learn more about this, the theory behind the story, look for playful learning, gamification. There's a real move, games in the classroom, which is called gamification. It's meaning how to incorporate principles of game into teaching. There's a great website with some ideas of how to do that. And language development and play. And of course, there are many other areas that are being, like project-based learning. A lot of school districts are pushing for project-based learning. And that's also something that you need to do too. But start small. So many people say, oh yeah, it will be great to have a project-based learning activity in my school, like everybody working together. And that's really hard. That's the ideal, but that's really hard. But project-based learning is not that. It's not just that. If you tell your students, we're going to work on a project today, which is working on a PowerPoint presentation, you're going to take those pictures that you did on the experiment, you're going to create a presentation about weather, erosion, and deposition, use your pictures, you can record your voice, you can use the camera, record yourself, and you put together a small presentation. That is a project, right? And that will give you the experience to move to a bigger project, and then eventually probably you'll do one with the whole 5th grade. But if you don't start somewhere, you will never do it, okay? And I want you to think where you are here. Because what I share with you today has a lot to do with Bloom's taxonomy. And you can see how a lot of the strategies that I share with you today are aiming for the top of the pyramid, okay? So just to remind you, think again, what is it that you're doing in your classroom then? Are you facilitating learning, or are you just educating? And remember the difference between those two concepts, because that is what is going to set the environment for your everyday instruction. And the difference is that when you learn, when the students are learning, they're gaining knowledge, and they're building that knowledge. When you educate, you just give them. So if you're going to your classroom every day just to give them knowledge, you're doing something wrong. It might work with certain kids, it might work in certain kind of groups, but that's probably why you're not getting 100% passing on 80% passing across the board. Probably the answer is there, okay? And remember that those are the 3 elements that you need to keep in mind to be successful. You have to focus on what really matters. You need to, which is recognizing enabling objectives, and make it meaningful for the students. And remember the chicharrón. And using repetition and summarizing and technology. And remember the importance of using, going from this to that, and how important it is to use visuals every day. If you're not using visuals every day, especially in science, you're not teaching real science there. And also, if you have any questions with the videos for Erasmus, you can email me. But remember that it's not only that, you have many other websites that you can use to use videos in your classroom. And remember how to go and create an interactive notebook on the style of Leonardo da Vinci's notebook. Because it's not just creating a notebook for me to give them the information, but create a notebook where the students can build their own information and knowledge. And all this is aiming for vocabulary development. And remember how important it is to use visuals when you're adding new words, especially in science, so that there's so many words that the students need to learn. So always accompany those new words with visuals, with images. And if those images are things that relate to their everyday life, even better. And use those visual note-taking as the standard in your classroom, okay? Do it for science, but also do it for math and social studies. Finally, remember technology. And I share with you some examples of how to do that and how to keep experiments simple, but to do the experiments, because if you don't do that, you're not really teaching, okay? So if you do all that, you keep this Balloon's taxonomy in mind, and you follow those 3 elements, you're going to be successful. Now, what's success? Because it's really important to understand what's success for you. For me, I remember when I was in the classroom and I was getting these really bad results was, I want to get 100% passing. I don't want to carry this stigma. And I did that. And I got 100% passing 1 year and the other year, to the point that this principal said, you know what, Mr. Hernandez, I want you to apply for Teacher of the Year. And I said, oh, great, thank you for the honor. So what do I need? Well, I need to get some letters from colleagues and from students. And I asked my students, and I got this letter from one of my students. And I remember when I got that letter, telling my wife, you know what, I don't really care if I win or not. This is the best reward I can get. And for me, it was really touching to get it a letter from a student that the year before had no English at all, coming from Mexico, then writing that letter in English, and then saying what she said there. And for me, that, I guess, summarizes what I invite you to do in your classroom, okay? Where learning is taking place all the time, when there's playful learning, when learning is kind of transparent for the students. But they know they're learning, but it's not like, I have to, it's because I want to, okay? So either you want to get 100% passing or get this kind of feedback. I hope that what I share with you today will help you do that. I hope that the strategies that I share with you will get you closer to that. If you're there, well, congratulations, and hopefully you will keep getting that feedback. But also, I hope that I inspire you to do different things in your classroom and to improve as a professional. That's what I've been doing over the years, and I'm really lucky to be here to share with you. So if you want more information and you have any questions, I'm going to give some time here for questions and for other things that we need to do before we move on and we go. But I want you to look at your table. There's an evaluation form. It looks like this. If you want to do it online, you can go to that website. But I want your evaluation, please. I want your feedback. If there's something you like about my presentation, share that there. If there's something you don't like about my presentation, please share that there, because that will help me improve this and become a better professional. Other thing I want to share with you is that if you give me your email, I will give you a handout with some like a summary of all the strategies that we covered. Even though at the end of this handout you have a list of those strategies that we covered here today, but I will give you one with some images and some additional information. And if you give me your email, I will send also those resources that I share with you today, like websites that I recommend and other things. I'm just starting really late in social media. I had to. It's like a second job, the thing about social media. And I just created my webpage for Facebook, so I will really appreciate if you have Facebook and you give me a like there or share. I don't know how that works. And even though I love technology, but it's because social media for me over the years has been like, I don't know if I really want to get there. But you have to. Is that what I was telling you? You have to. And then also in Twitter. And let me show you really quick my website, because if you go there, you can, it's enablinglearning.com. And when you go there, you get, for example, this newsletter. If you click here, it will take you to a newsletter that I update every Monday, or Tuesday if I forget Monday, where I basically go online and I look for good articles related to science, education, educational technology, bilingual education, and I will put all those articles there. So when you go to that newsletter, you have everything in one place. All you have to do is click on that, and it will take you to that article, okay? I also share videos. Look, I was sharing this morning, I'm trying to keep up with social media. So you have some videos there, how to use project-based learning. I keep adding videos every week, and some of them are really, really helpful. I have information about science, technology, education. So if you want to, you can go to my website, but if you want to get a reminder that is there and that has been updated, all you have to do is go to here, you type your email there, and you will subscribe to my newsletter. So every Monday when I send this notification, you will get it, okay? And the other thing that you get on my website is here, this link for YouTube. If you go to that link for YouTube from my website, it will take you to the liked videos on my channel. And these are videos that I like for one reason or other, but they're mostly related to education. You won't see here like crazy stuff. Here I have very, very interesting videos about motivation, about how to integrate technology in the classroom, about Leonardo da Vinci, what is meaningful learning. So I invite you, there's one video here that I was talking about, what is it? Science experiments. There's this guy, where is that guy? There's this guy from India that he was teaching these slums in India, and he wanted to make it meaningful for the students. So he went and created a series of experiments that you can do to teach math and science, and everything is done with recycled material, like trash, things that you will throw away. Oh, man, where is it now? Okay, here's. So if you click there, you can take a look at the video, but if you click on his website, which is there, the link is right there. That's not the video, that's the commercial. Oh my God, I got it. Okay. So this guy is sharing all this, look, to teach math. It's really, sometimes really hard to understand because he has a heavy accent, but look, toothpicks, and I don't know what else is used in there. Teach math.
But this is very shaky.
So again, you have
You see insects.
a lot of ideas, and you can go to his website,
Snakes, eagles. It's a big
and in his website he has step-by-step instruction on how to create the things.
28 artist documented by Martin Gardner in many of his many books.
Okay, so I invite you to look at those videos. There's a lot for science. The other thing that all the videos that I recommend here, well, the one we just watched from this teacher from MIT is there, Khan Academy, and if you want to explore project-based learning, there are a few about project-based learning, how to use iPads in the classroom. So if you have time, which I know sometimes we don't have, but if you have time and you want to learn about different things, I invite you to go to those, to that particular channel where I have some kind of a curated selection of videos, okay? And you can go to my linking page and all that stuff. One more thing that I want to share with you is that I'm going to be, well, this is the book. If you want the book, you can order that either on Amazon or on my website. And also, I wrote this book about Leonardo da Vinci because I had so many teachers telling me, you know what, that's great, but what should I say about Leonardo? Where should I start? So I wrote this book about Leonardo. It's called The Art of Science. And basically here, I talk about Leonardo growing up in Vinci and how since he was a kid, he developed observation skills that later in his life helped him to become a great artist, like I just said this morning, but also a great scientist and inventor. And I talk about the notebooks, and I give some examples, and I have like a kit that the students can carry everywhere to do observations and sketching. And actually, I got a teacher that bought this for her students, and then she sent me an email saying, you know what, they're carrying that thing everywhere. Now they want to go to the restaurant, they want to take the sketchbook, they want to go to the lunch, they want to get the sketchbook. That's the idea. Yeah, no, but they're driving me crazy. Okay, but that's the idea, to inspire the students to see the science is everywhere. I connect with the scientific method, and I invite the students to take it everywhere, a long glossary, because the idea is to develop vocabulary. I have some recommended websites and some pictures from Vinci, because I had the opportunity to travel there and take some pictures and interview from some people from the Da Vinci Museum. And then when you get to the middle of the book, it says, turn libro. But when you turn the libro, it says, girar book now. That's an ambigram, that's pretty cool. And when you close it, it's in Spanish now. And if you go to this website and you put that the username and password, you can print like 40 different pages with word search puzzles and coloring pages. And the coloring pages, they work with the Aurasma app. Okay. So if you want more information about that book, you can go to my website. And I also finished one book for the iPad, for the iBooks, for the iPad and the iPhone. And I'm working on a Science Peaks app, and that's what I want you to email, because if we finish that, hopefully soon, it's taking me longer than expected, you basically are going to be able to let the students interact with those pages and on the iPad, and it's free. All you need to put is your user, that code that is on the disk, and it will give you access, okay? And one more thing I want to share with you. I'm going to be doing a workshop here in McAllen, well, here, McAllen, meaning McAllen. And it's a different workshop. It's called The Art and Science of Facilitating Learning. It's not just for science. I'm going to be sharing strategies for math and reading and science as well. It's a whole day thing. It's going to be the February 26th in the DoubleTree Suites by Hilton in McAllen, Texas. And it's $175 per person. It's a whole day thing. But you get a flash drive, a USB drive with a lot of material that you can print to use in your classroom in English and Spanish based on all the strategies that are going to cover that day. Okay? So if you want to go, you're invited. It's going to be in McAllen a whole day. And You might ask from help from your administrators. They might say yes. You never know. So ask. And this is my website again. I really need your feedback. So please complete the evaluation, either here or online. And again, if you are on Facebook, please, I will really appreciate that. Like or dislike. They have a dislike button there, no? Oh, well, they were talking about. Oh, okay. So if it's don't dislike me, please. Okay, and now I usually leave some time here for questions, or if you want to share some other strategies that you know are helpful, or apps, because that's the other thing that I've been sharing this ideas of how to use technologies, and sometimes I get feedback from teachers. You know about this app, it's really great. So it's such a fast-moving technology now that we have apps every day. There's one more website I would like to invite you, because there you're going to have a lot of information that's going to be helpful for you. Is this project that I'm working for UNT Dallas on a project called Project Basics, which is bilingual educators for students of Texas. And there, I'm the technology coordinator. And here the idea is to give you tools to teach in the classroom. So here we have a bunch of videos that I already selected based on bilingual education, culturally relevant pedagogy, classroom ideas, technology integration, STEM education, flipped learning, PBL, game-based learning. So if you go to any of those, you have a set of videos that you can watch, and they're really good, all of them. That's because I really was looking for things that you can really implement in your classroom, like culturally relevant pedagogy, how to incorporate that into your teaching. But then, if you go to recommended apps, here I created this. There's so many apps again, and some of them are for different grade levels, different subjects. So what I did is, I did a selection of classroom management tools. And probably you know some of this because a lot of teachers are starting to use this, like Class Dojo app, and you can push notification. You have it?
It's my daughter's class.
Okay. So you use it? What do you think about it?
I like it a lot.
Really? You use
It
it?
helps you randomize students whenever you call random questions at random, you can do that.
Yeah.
And award points to the kids.
Yeah, so I know when she's.
And is it hard to use?
I don't know.
See?
Got it from the parent.
Yeah.
He uses it as a teacher, and then I use it as the parent.
Parent.
My daughter.
And you communicate and
I
share.
mean, if I see him every day, we
Yeah.
tried it.
It's good, right? It's a great way to be in touch, right? Yeah, and for the students too, because they get badges and they get these rewards and things. Now, there is one similar to that one, but it's more kind of a Facebook for students, or for the classroom, Edmodo, right? And there's another one that you might think to start using. And again, it's more into the idea of sharing and creating groups and having the opportunity to share ideas about a particular project or a particular class. So it's there. You go there and start trying, and I'm going to show you the whole thing. But and then I have others like Teacher Kit. This one is you can have your whole class there and add grades, make behavior notes. There's something more like to help you be organized. It's more on the side of the teacher. Also we have this one, Too Noisy. I mean, for me it's a really simple app, but I just added this one as an example of really simple and inexpensive apps to certain things that might be helpful in the classroom. Like if you work in collaborative and you are letting the students, talk and it's getting too noisy, it will pick the level of noise in your classroom and will, the smiley face will change and probably start crying like, oh my God, it's too noisy. Lower it down. and the students can look at that, so it'll help you to have a level of noise that is manageable. Okay, now, I don't know if you've seen Nearpod. If you have iPods in your classroom, this is amazing, because with this one, you can, basically, if you have a set of iPads for all the students, so you have your own, you can start your class on this iPad, on whatever you're doing on that iPad. If you're typing, you're drawing, or even if you're playing a video, it will show on all the students' iPads. And at some point, you can create a set of questions to measure understanding, and you will push those questions to each of the iPads. They will answer, and then you get immediate feedback on who's answering and who's getting what. Okay? It's amazing, and you can control your smart board from it. So that's another app. Of course, for that you will need your help, the help from school district. You have those areas which I already showed you. There are many others. Presentation. I show you Keynote today. You know Prezi, right? And it's a really nice tool to do presentations different to PowerPoint. Then you have Aurasma, which I show you today. And remember that you can create your own. We have iMovie, Toontastic, and Telestory. And Telestory is really interesting because it's basically augmented reality. It recognizes your face and it places things on top of your face. And if you move, it follows you. So you can be if you are in a newscast, or you could be a different characters, and everything is recorded. And then Poplet, which is really a really great tool for creating these graphic organizers, or creating these concept maps that I show you today. But they're really easy to use, so you can tap in anywhere on the screen, and you start creating these boxes, and you start connecting the boxes. But it's really cool because when you have a lot of information, you can move back, zoom out, and you will see the actual big picture, and you start seeing connections like, oh, look, so this could be connected with this, and this word will be connected with this. So I invite you to do that on the class, to use that if you want to use concept map. And on that same website, I have other recommended sites, and this one is really good. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's called, where is it? There, the Teacher Toolkit. It's really good because here you have a lot of different tools that you can use in the classroom. Basically, it's activities that you can use in the classroom. And if you register, which is free, you can download the pages and print that. And you can have different activities for vocabulary development, for science, and they're already created for you. And you can print some of the pages that you might need, or if you don't have to print anything, they will show you here in the video on how to do the whole activity. Okay?
How the students feel about a certain topic. So for my class,
so she's playing there those strategies. Okay? So if you have time, go and take a look at some of the strategies they're sharing here with you. And that's it. That was it. So any question? Any comments? Yes.
You mentioned that you have a blog.
Well, yeah, the thing is that blog, I took that down from my website because I was not updating the blog, but my posts are there. So if you email me, I will send that link to that post with visual literacy samples of my new books, okay? Because right now it's not showing on my homepage because I was so busy that I was not putting anything new. And I look back. But all the previous posts that I had are still there, so I will link that particular post with visual literacy there. Any other comment, question? Okay, please don't forget your evaluation. Thank you for being here. It was a pleasure and an honor. And I hope I'll see you soon. Again, thank you.